Hello, my name's Lee McQuaig. I'm an independent researcher. Today I'm going to be doing a presentation called The U.S., Greenland, and Canada's Arctic Passage. As you know, Greenland has been in the news and covered by commentators on social media lately. There's been a lot of opinions expressed that the U.S. needs to secure Greenland in order to protect it from foreign interests, to protect the waters of the Arctic from foreign interests, namely China and Russia. And I'm going to dispute that that's the actual reason they're doing that. So I'd like to state that my views are my own. I don't represent a group or community. And with that being said, I'll get going. Oh, and also my research has been done by amalgamating articles on AI, reading the articles, and citing them. I put them together in a PowerPoint presentation. I am not reading a script. So I'm simply reading bullet points I've put together through articles I've read. And really, I use the AI just as a better version of Google. Just for full disclosure. So, my first point here is the 1988 agreement between the Government of Canada and the Government of the United States of America on Arctic cooperation. This information is from the Government of Canada website, and I will provide all the links to all of my citations below. The Government of the United States pledges that all navigation by U.S. icebreakers within waters claimed by Canada to be internal will be undertaken with the consent of the Government of Canada. Another quote here. The Government of Canada and the Government of the United States also recognize that it is desirable to cooperate in order to advance their shared interests in Arctic development and security. Now, here's an important point. They affirm that navigation and resource development in the Arctic must not adversely affect the unique environment of the region and the well-being of its inhabitants. And I'm going to come back to that later with more specific points regarding that. So basically, there's agreement in 1988 between the Reagan government and I believe the Canadian government of Joe Clark that the U.S. cannot enter the waters of the Canadian Arctic without permission. I believe it started, one vessel went through the waters and there was a dispute and they came up with this agreement. And now it's pertinent because of global warming. Channels are forming where it's possible to travel through this northern passage. And it's in the interests of certain entities to use that as a shipping route. And I'm going to present several arguments why. Firstly, it's Canada's territory, and second of all, why it's not a particularly wise idea to do that, and certain moves that the government of Donald Trump has taken to try to circumnavigate that. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the tariffs on Canada. So I have a quote here from NBC regarding the justification for Trump's tariffs on Canada. Trump has also said a lead reason for the trade war is Canada's lack of urgency in dealing with the fentanyl crisis. Even though just 43 pounds of fentanyl were seized by U.S. border agents entering the country from Canada during the last fiscal year, compared to 21,100 pounds coming from Mexico. So obviously, I'm not against seizing fentanyl. It's bad. All that stuff needs to be stopped. But compared to the issue on the southern border, it's minuscule. And I think there's a much stronger reason to do with Greenland and the Arctic Passage for Trump to be putting these tariffs on Canada than this justification, which I think is kind of a front. Okay, moving on. Now we're getting into the peace agreement that Trump has proposed between Ukraine and Russia. And my theory is that this really hinges on resources and on trade. And Trump is basically, I believe, trying to make a business deal with Putin. And he's trying to leverage resources that aren't his own. And that is why I believe he's making such drastic moves, like saying that he's willing to invade Greenland and putting tariffs that people don't really understand the severity of the justification for how severe they are on Canada. It was actually outlined in the NBC news article. I'll link. It's titled something along the lines of "No one understands what Trump is doing with the tariffs." Anyways, I have a quote here from Reuters. Moscow, December 11th. U.S. President Donald Trump's plan for peace in Ukraine includes proposals to restore Russian energy flows to Europe. Major U.S. investment in Russian rare earths and energy, and tapping frozen Russian sovereign assets. So that outlines right there that minerals and assets are key to this deal. Now we move on to Greenland. So a quote from Trump I've cited on CNBC. Right now, Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. So I'm going to provide several quotes from the Arctic Institute that go against that. Do Chinese ships sail around Greenland? No. They mainly sail to and from Russia with raw materials, and they sail outside Alaska to hold military exercises, to conduct research, and to fish. Yes, China, or to be more precise, Chinese companies, has been interested in investing in Greenland, especially in mining. But many of those projects have been put on hold for security reasons. Okay, some more quotes from the Arctic Institute. The U.S. needs control over Greenland to stop Russia and Chinese ships that are all over the place. Here, Trump literally misses the mark. The Arctic is a huge area that makes up 4% of the globe and includes the Arctic Ocean, which itself is 6 times larger than the Mediterranean Sea. Parts of the Arctic are absolutely central to Russia's strategic nuclear weapons, i.e., Russia's ability to threaten the West and especially the United States with nuclear power. These weapons, in the form of missiles, bombs, and warheads on submarines, are mostly located in the Kola Peninsula, a stone's throw away from Kirkenes and Norway, not Greenland. And the Arctic Institute article goes on to say, if Trump is concerned about Russia's dominance in the Arctic, he should focus on what Russia is doing in Northern Europe from Estonia to Svalbard. I'm sorry, I can't say that. Or what Russia is doing together with China outside Alaska. At the same time, it cannot possibly be, he cannot possibly be that worried about Russia in the Arctic, since he has repeatedly hinted that the United States and Russia should enter into major economic cooperation projects in the Arctic. So, and I've read some other articles as well, and it's not as if this activity doesn't exist. The problem is that he's saying that he needs to take over Greenland to deal with this problem, when in fact, the Danish government has been very open about letting him expand his military operations there, which the United States military operations there, which already exist. They already have a base, and they're perfectly happy to let the United States station more troops and equipment there, and he's disregarded this. So the defense of Greenland. Here's a political article, a political article backing up what I said there. A quote: according to two people familiar with private high-level discussions and granted anonymity to share their details, the White House has shown little interest in an overture last year from Denmark's Prime Minister offering the U.S. the option to increase its military presence in Greenland, where it already operates a base and has long deployed troops at liberty. Did I say the Denmark? I think I misstated that earlier. Pardon me. I said the Danish, not the Dutch, didn't I? Anyways. Greenland's resources. Now here is the real meat. So I have a quote from the Institute for Energy Resource. The Institute for Energy Research. While Greenland prohibits oil and gas exploration, it is enormously rich in mineral wealth, which the Chinese and others have been pursuing. Despite much of the country being covered in ice, Greenland's known reserves of rare earth minerals are almost equal to those of the United States. President Trump sees Greenland as having strategic national security value to the United States due to its location near potential trade routes and possession of rare and undiscovered mineral assets needed for laptops, cell phones, wind turbines, electric vehicles, weapons, and much more. Greenland's key mineral deposits include rare earth elements, graphite, copper, nickel, zinc, gold, diamonds, iron ore, and tungsten. A 2023 survey indicated that 25 of 34 minerals deemed critical raw materials by the European Commission can be found in Greenland. Trump stated, "We need Greenland for economic security." So I think there's a lot more to just defending the waters around Greenland. I think that's a pretty thin excuse. So here's some more quotes from the Institute for Energy Research article. Greenland's known rare earth reserves are almost equivalent to those of the entire United States, and much more is likely to lie beneath its icebound landscape. If developed, Greenland could meet at least 25% of global rare earth demand well into the future. 3 of Greenland's biggest rare earth mineral deposits are in the southern Gardar province. Excuse my pronunciation. Rare earth elements are key for permanent magnets used in electric vehicles and wind turbines. The Tanbreeze mine on the southern tip of Greenland has a large deposit of, I'm going to butcher this, eudolite ore, rich in rare earth elements such as neodymium, cerium, lanthanum, and yttrium. I cannot say that. It also has gallium, a critical mineral recently placed under export controls by China because of its military applications. There's concern over the Tanbreeze mine's possible sale to a Chinese company, as the Chinese company is already the biggest shareholder in a rare earth minerals project in Kvanefjeld on the same network of fjords as Tanbreeze. China's growing interest in Greenland's mineral wealth and its interest in cornering world markets, which allows them to influence the investment decisions of other mines worldwide, is undoubtedly part of President Trump's ongoing interest in Greenland, which he expressed during his first term. Purification test work carried out by Greenrock's Germany-based technical consultants indicated a graphite purity of 99.97% that could reset what it means for a mineral product to be pure. The purity exceeds the purity required to produce the graphite used to manufacture anodes for EV batteries. It hosts one of the highest grade graphite deposits in the world, with a resource estimated at 8.28 million metric tons, and the combination of this vast deposit and a process that can deliver such pure products could make this one of the most productive and profitable mines in the world. Natural graphite is primarily used in EV batteries and steel making. In 2021, Greenland passed a law limiting the amount of uranium and mined resources, stopping the development of a rare earth element mine in southern Greenland. The Greenland government owns and administers land to residents, and as a result, closed private mining sites are a cultural anomaly, and permissions or access limitations must be dealt with carefully. So we can see they're exercising control over how much mining can be done on the land, and I'm assuming there's environmental factors as well, because it is under glacial ice. And we're going to get to the global warming element of this right now, actually. So I cited a scientific paper on nature.com, and specifically I'm talking here about the emissions from shipping through the Northwest Passage, and it's a serious concern because global warming can be rapidly accelerated by melting ice in the Arctic regions. There's also massive gas deposits that can accelerate it as well, methane gas, when this ice melts. So I'm going to talk about that in this quote here. Spatially, emissions would intensify in a newly navigable but ecologically vulnerable water, with hotspots such as the Lincoln Sea and Baffin Bay, which were previously near zero emission zones, emerging as critical carbon concentration zones. This transformation risks accelerating Arctic warming, disrupting albedo effects and permafrost stability, which could release significant methane stores and exacerbate global climate feedbacks. Although access to the ASR, I think that's Arctic Sea Route, reduces voyage distances, these efficiency gains will be overwhelmed by the scale of increased traffic growth. And in this article, they really outline projections for a massive amount of shipping through this region. It was something like a fifth of the world's shipping, and huge amounts of pollution due to that, which I believe is tied to these resources in Greenland. There's obviously a direct route between Greenland and Russia through this passage. And of course, the U.S. in 2019 openly challenged the Arctic Agreement. This quote from Global News: U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is calling Canada's claim over the Northwest Passage illegitimate in a major speech that is being criticized for being provocative and inaccurate. A leading international security expert says Pompeo's branding of a long-time agreement on Arctic policy between Canada and the U.S. is a stunning rebuke of the 1988 Arctic Cooperation Agreement between the two countries. So here's my summary. The U.S. says it needs Greenland for security despite Denmark being open to increased military presence. Trump's Ukraine deal hinges on resources. Greenland has massive resources for EVs, military equipment, and nuclear. They also, I read in the article by the Institute, I'm sorry, the name's eluding me, but in the article I cited about Greenland's mineral resources, they also have oil deposits, which are off limits by the current administration there. The Arctic Passage connects Greenland and Russia. Concerns over climate impact of the shipping through the Arctic, melting, obviously, the ice reserves, the methane, a massive amount of shipping traffic. It's actually going to increase overall shipping, according to the article I linked, by quite a bit. Trump, oh, and another thing I haven't put in my slides, Trump has opted out of climate agreements, major climate agreements, and as you probably know if you followed him, has said climate change is a hoax. And the U.S. disputes the agreement made between Canada and the U.S. under Reagan over Canada's waters. So this is my argument that Trump is not really trying to secure Greenland in the interest of protecting us from China and Russia. If anything, it appears that he's trying to use leverage on Canada to open the waters, get mineral deposits, and basically sell off resources that aren't his own to do business with them. So that's my take. Let me know if you have any comments, disputes, agreements. It's simply my opinion. I did my best to research it, but I've been keeping track of this situation for a while. And the first thing that I thought when Trump did the tariffs was, my mind immediately went to the Arctic Passage. I know he'd spoken about it before, so feel free to comment. Thank you if you made it all the way, and have a great day.